I saw 4 new movies this week, so let's sit down and rank and review each of them. Hi there, my name is Jonathan, and this is my Trash Heap, and today we're going to be talking about 4 movies that I've seen this week, and those movies being Mafia Mama, Spinning Gold, 1001, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I saw these movies in that order, so that's the order in which we're going to talk about them. So let's dive in with Mafia Mama, which I saw on Monday, April 3rd, as Regal's new mystery movie for April, and this movie is absolutely terrible. This is one of the worst movies that I've watched recently and potentially ever. I think there is nothing in this movie that makes it worth watching. I was really excited for this movie. I thought it was just going to be a stupid comedy. Toni Collette stars as a suburban mother who has to go to Italy for her grandfather's funeral, and that person ends up being the head of the mafia. So now she's the head of the mafia, and that's a really funny idea, I think. I was really excited for it, and I was like, yeah, this is probably going to be the mystery movie, so I'm going to go see it, and it was, and about like 25-30 minutes in, I was sitting there and I was kind of just like, okay, yeah, this movie is awful. And it just... It starts out just kind of dumb, where it's, you know, there's some contrived family drama where her son's going off to college and her husband's cheating on her, and that's whatever, that didn't really bug me. But then they cut to this scene where they're at like a gym, and she has a friend who is the most annoying person in the world, because the only thing that friend cares about is Toni Collette going out and getting laid in Italy. And it very much tries to like ham-fist the fact that like, oh yeah, hey, sex is something we can joke about, right? Sex is funny. Saying like, you know, vagina and penis is really funny, right? No, not when you do it like this. And that's a theme that persists throughout the whole movie. The comedy is just bad. It's not a funny movie. They try so hard to be funny, but not in the way that like the MCU does, where it's like a joke a minute. It's like they have these long, drawn-out jokes. These scenes that are like, they drag out for like a minute and a half to try to get you to laugh at it, and it's just like, what are you doing? This is not funny. Further along from that, this movie on a technical level is terrible. There's some really awful editing across the movie. There's several scenes that just have continuity errors between shots, which was really weird. The pacing of the movie and individual scenes is just terrible. There are several scenes where like, I don't know if they're trying to do like a comedic timing thing, but they don't understand comedic timing, because like the timing in which each person will like speak and then the person will respond or something will happen here, it's very off and weird, and I don't really get it, and it bugged me so much throughout the movie. There is also a really, really bad scene where Toni Collette's character, somebody attempts to rape her, and they play the entire scene off as a joke, even before, like, when the thing is happening, and that really was bad. There is absolutely nothing good in this movie. I think this is a stupid movie. It's a really good concept, which is why I'm disappointed, because I thought it was going to be good. It's not. Just do yourself a favor, only watch the trailer, don't go see the movie. This movie is awful, and I give it my prestigious 0 out of 10. So then Tuesday afternoon, I went and I saw Spinning Gold, which is probably the least talked about movie on the list of movies that I saw this week. So if you don't know what Spinning Gold is, again, I don't blame you. This movie has a very small release. It is a biopic about Neil Bogart and Casablanca Records, which was this record company that produced Donna Summers, Kiss, a bunch of other people. And I also hated this movie. And it's annoying, because this movie and Mafia Mama, I had very high expectations for both of them, for different reasons. Mafia Mama was just a good trailer and it sold me. And Spinning Gold is my favorite genre of movie, which is musical biopics. I love movies like Elvis and Rocket Man. Bohemian Rhapsody not so much, even though Rami Malek is incredible. So I was really excited for this movie, and even quicker into this than with Mafia Mama, I was like, this movie isn't gonna be good. The first scene in this movie, I didn't like. So the movie starts out with Neil Bogart, played by Jeremy Jordan, and we'll get to that. Going into like a gospel African-American church where they're like singing "Oh Happy Day," and he like starts basically throwing money at one of the people to like he stacks it, but he's basically just throwing the money at this guy to like get the rights to the song, and then he's like, haha, that never happened like that. And it was at that point where I was kind of like, I'm in for a long one. And long this movie is. This movie is 2 hours and 17 minutes, which is the same length as Everything Everywhere All at Once. And this movie feels longer than Babylon. This is a very uninteresting movie for what it should be. It takes place in like the late 60s, early 70s, which should be really cool to do some stylistic stuff with, because that was a cool time for like pop culture and whatnot. And they just make it really boring. They don't do anything overly interesting with it, and even the scenes of the like musicians performing aren't really that good. There's a scene in the first like 20 minutes where Kiss performs, and I understand that the context of that scene is it's one of Kiss's earlier performances, but you still don't even feel the energy. You don't really feel like, whoa, like, oh my god, like, oh, it's Kiss. Like, you don't really feel that, and that kind of persists throughout the whole movie where it's just bland for what it should be. I said we were gonna get back to Jeremy Jordan. He is terrible in this movie. I don't like his performance at all. They depict Neil Bogart as this very, very ambitious man, but confident in his ambition to the point where he's like, yeah, everything's good, everything's fine all the time. And I mean, I personally don't even think that's a particularly well-written character, but Jeremy Jordan doesn't make it interesting. He doesn't, add some nuance into his ambition and his confidence. He kind of he's very flamboyant, very yeah all the time. There's no real subtlety in that. Another thing that's terrible about this movie to me is they have Neil Bogart's kid directing it, Timothy Scott Bogart, and the problem with this is you would think that, okay, well, this is, a very personal thing for me, so I'm going to do my best to, pay it its due respect. And what it ends up doing is kind of just like, stroking his dad's ego for 2.5 hours almost. The same story happens like 12 times in this movie where there's, he's like, oh, I'm gonna go, this new band, this is the one, they're not the one. Bad things happen, and then, oh, I'm gonna give them one more shot. We're gonna bet everything on them, and then they're successful because of me, and then I get money because of them. It's like they basically just paint him as like the savior type of guy. Like it happens, I think, with literally every musician he talks to in the movie, with the exception of Kiss, like the Isley Brothers, Donna Summers, like all of that. They basically, the movie tries to tell you like, yeah, none of this would have happened if not for old Neil over here, and it's just. It's bad. The only thing that I like about this movie is they do this, this like red screen. I'll put a picture of it up here, wherever he like kind of like has that like twinkle in his eye of this ambition. And I thought that was interesting, and it was a neat concept. They didn't really do anything with it though. They didn't really like lead to like, ambition can destroy or whatever, or this, that, and the other. They didn't really like delve into any of that, so it's just a bland, stupid movie that I really don't think should exist, and if it does, it shouldn't be 217. And while we're on the topic of twos, this movie gets a 2 out of 10. Alright, so both of those movies are absolutely awful, but now we're getting into the two that I actually either liked or respected enough. And this movie, I saw Wednesday morning. It is 1001, which is a movie about or starring Teyana Taylor as an African-American woman who abducts, steals, kidnaps a child from a hospital who was in a foster system, and she raises him as her own. And the movie follows that and their struggles and difficulties growing up in what I think the Wikipedia page or one of the promotional things quotes as an ever-changing New York. And I liked this movie enough. I didn't think it was the best thing ever, but let's start with the good, because I actually have good things to talk about with this movie as opposed to the last two. Teyana Taylor is very good in this movie. She delivers a very good performance. I love how I say I'm going to talk about the good stuff and then I'm immediately throwing something bad. I didn't love the writing of her character, though, because oftentimes in scenes she would very quickly snap from emotion to emotion, like extremes from, like, you know, loving mother to, like, what are you doing, like, you know, like aggressive, mad, angry. And I can understand, you know, the idea of, you know, stress and anxiety and, you know, worry about all this, you know, what's happening in your life at the time, especially with the subject matter of this movie. But those very rapid shifts in emotion were weird to me as a writing thing, but Teyana Taylor executed them very well. So I will give her very, 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 very big props for her performance. I don't think it's necessarily a Best Actress level performance, but it's very solid. And she's what we spend a lot of the movie with, so obviously I really enjoy watching her throughout this. Some of the stuff that I didn't like about this movie is, as I mentioned earlier, they talk about the ever-changing New York. The movie doesn't really lean into the political undertones that it could have, and it also kind of just, it almost feels ham-fisted at some point. So the movie takes place across the years 1994 to 2005. So, starts in 1994, where, you know, the kid that she steals is like 6 years old, and then in 2001, he's, what, 12, 13? He's about to start high school, so probably closer to 14. And then by 2005, he's going ready to go off to college. And they show, there's these scenes as they shift the time, where you'll hear the mayor talking, whoever happens to be at that point. So you have, you know, Rudy Giuliani talking and Bloomberg talking at these different points in time. And while I think that's interesting and it's a cool idea, they don't really do anything with it. Nothing in the ever-changing New York feels different after you hear the new mayor talk. And as a world-building thing, it just kind of feels like nothing's really different here. So another thing that I also don't really love is, like, the stakes in the movie never really feel that high, because the whole point of the movie is like, no, she did something illegal, she shouldn't have this kid, people are looking for her. There is no tension whatsoever in this movie, and it takes something away. It could have been this really cool, tense, almost a thriller type movie where it's like she's, you know, she says in the trailer,
I'll go to war for you. You know that? Against this whole city.
Show us. Show us that. Don't just have her say it 20 minutes in. Show us. And that and the theme of the movie is a little all over the place. It's hard to tell if they're going for a familyhood, a motherhood, or a coming-of-age thing. They kind of try to do all three, and none of them really work, but none of them really fall flat either. So I know that I'm sounding very negative about this movie, but I do think it actually is pretty solid. Teyana Taylor's performance is very good. It's a compelling enough story. There's some interesting ideas, but there is a really, really good movie in here. I don't think that they executed it as well as they could have. So it falls into the category of a weak 7. And the final movie that I saw this week is the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which has been getting absolutely raked on the internet by critics, and I think this is the movie that made me kind of realize, like, okay, maybe critics just don't like fun. Is this a good movie? Yeah. Is it a great movie? No. Is it one of the best animated movies I've ever seen? Absolutely not. You look at last year's Oscar nominees for Best Animated Feature, 3 of those movies absolutely dunk on this movie. Is it a fun time at the theater for Mario fans and accurate to the source material? Yes. And frankly, that's all I really care about. This is a fun movie. I enjoy it. It's very fast, it's very high energy. It's very good at keeping your attention. I think it's a solid animated movie. I didn't hate Chris Pratt. I thought all of the voice acting was good except one person, which we'll talk about in a second. I just think it's a fun movie. I think critics need to, like, I get that their point of a critic is to analyze the movie and critique it, but I feel like you need to sometimes take into consideration who a movie is made for and then critique it accordingly. You know, who is this movie made for? Made for 7-year-old kids who like Mario and want to go watch it. Are they gonna like this movie? Almost certainly they will, because it's a fun movie that's high energy, has humor, and kids are gonna like that. So it's sitting somewhere in the 40s on Rotten Tomatoes, which is just a bad rating in my opinion, but regardless, let's get to the negative since I've just been trying to, you know, defend this movie so far. I didn't love Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach, which was weird because I love Anya Taylor-Joy as an actress, but she didn't really do it for me as Peach. I don't quite know why, but it was weird. And looping back into the pacing of the movie, when I say it's fast, that also does work a little to its detriment because it is a bit rushed. There isn't a whole lot of character development per se, in the sense of they don't have a lot of time for the characters to just sit there and talk and kind of flesh themselves out a little more. There's a couple good ones, like when Peach gets the fire flower for the first time. That was a nice little scene, but it's a bit fast. I'm not saying it should have been longer necessarily, but if it was like an hour 50, maybe it would be a bit better. And occasionally it'll drift too close into the, like, you know, this is a straight up a kid's movie. It's, you know, where they go a little just, you know, dumb with the humor. And I can't really fault it for that, but then I look at a movie like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which is the extreme example, or the less extreme example, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, where it deals with its themes in a very mature way that appeals to both kids, you know, teenagers and adults. But other than that, man, I mean, this is just a fun movie. Jack Black's amazing in it. Charlie Day, even Chris Pratt. Like I said, I like this movie. It's fun. I might go see it again, but certainly when it comes out on streaming, I'm gonna watch it a couple more times. It's fun, it's nothing special, it gets a 7.5. So those are the 4 movies that I saw this week, and they coincidentally happen to be both chronological and in increasing order of enjoyment. I've been working on a big video, ranking all the movies that I've watched this year so far. I was going to release it a couple days ago, but I've decided to just bump it back, and release one every 4 months. So end of April, I'll release that video. And then the 8th month is August, so end of August, I'll release the updated version, and then end of December, beginning of January, I'll release the full all movies I saw in 2023 ranked. So, anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, let me know down below. If you've seen any of these movies, tell me what you thought about them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.